Hey kiddies, terrible triple feature time once again as we enter the penultimate week of Tom's Friends Hate Him Month with Kate Mara in sci-fi movies with people that I actually like. Look, this is going to seem really petty, but I just think that Kate Mara is just a miserable looking woman in every single movie she's in. I mean, she might be a very nice person in real life. Again, when I really rail against people in the videos this month, I've never met them. They could be perfectly wonderful human beings. I'm basing my complete snap judgments on the on-screen personas that they present me with. And God, either she's got the worst case of a bitchy resting face, or she's just a generally miserable person. I don't know what it is. But every time she's in a show or a movie, it's an instant, it's just gonna be a downer. It's like the most you ever get is like the thinnest smile while the eyes just stay exactly the same. And I don't get it, but other people seem to, so, make hay while the sun shines. More power to her. It just, does she have to keep being in movies with people I like? Like these three sci-fi films with people that I enjoy, just in general, let alone in comparison to Kate Mara. So our menu is going to include Transcendence, The Martian, and the 2015 Fantastic Four. Transcendence by Pilgrimage is, of course, the long-awaited follow-up of by David Cronenberg of his late 90s film Existence, starring Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Is a thing I'd be saying if the world were equitable. But no, Transcendence is actually Wally Pfister's directorial debut with Johnny Depp and Rebecca Hall pushing the limits of what it is to be a human being. So Johnny Depp and Rebecca Hall and Paul Bettany and Morgan Freeman and I want to say a very brief cameo by Xander Berkeley are all working towards creating artificial intelligence. But as it turns out, there are a quite militant group of Luddites who think this is the worst thing ever, and so they're trying to murder them all. And, doing a quite successful job. Fortunately for Johnny Depp, he is being killed by radiation poisoning, so that gives them enough time to upload his brain into a computer, all Lawnmower Man style. And from this new vantage point, Johnny Depp becomes all-powerful and megalomaniacal and evil. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just the same person he was. He's just, can do a lot more and is working towards the betterment of mankind. You're going to have to watch the movie all the way to the end to find out. It's really stupid. It's so stupid. It's really just long and downtrodden. And there's if the movie had come out maybe 15 years earlier, it would have been really interesting, but it just wasn't. Because it just follows all the same tropes. It's like, oh, can we trust Johnny Depp now that he's half computer? Or is it really Johnny Depp now that he's in a computer? And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You can't put a soul into a computer. You can make an extremely great approximation of the same person, but he's never going to be the actual person. Johnny Depp's character is in whatever afterlife might exist or might not. And, if you want to find a way to love this new computer-generated Max Headroom-esque version of him, go for it. Be that thing. But don't waffle after a while, and don't wimp out when he starts pushing science and new boundaries for the benefit of mankind. Nanites, healing everything, cleaning the environment. But no, we don't know if we can trust him. For God's sakes, even if you couldn't, man, just go with it. But there are a bunch of people that can't. The aforementioned militant Luddites, RIFT, R-I-F-T, I don't remember what it stands for, led by a very blonde-haired Kate Mara. I suspect she's wearing a wig. She never smiles once in the movie. She is beyond miserable. She is so miserable she wants to murder people. She wants to murder people so that, the future doesn't happen. And I gotta tell you, in a better movie, they might... The Rift people, the Neo-Luddites, may have had a point, but But they really come off as Neanderthals who don't understand that you can create fire whenever you want now. And I mean, there are actual scenes where they're using advanced technology to track down the people that they want to murder because they're advancing technology. It's really stupid. The cast is really neat. It's like the majority of it are the Christopher Nolan repertory players with Cillian Murphy, Morgan Freeman, Rebecca Hall, and I got to tell you, Rebecca Hall, I don't dislike her greatly, but I like the consistency of how whenever she's in a movie, she is a source of misery for everybody around her. If you don't believe me, look at The Prestige, The Town, and Iron Man 3. This movie is just really long. I couldn't believe, like, considering how quickly Johnny Depp dies and gets uploaded in the computer, I couldn't believe how much more movie there actually was. And then I was even more shocked to see how little they actually do with it. Honestly, I think the most shocking part of the whole movie was the very beginning when you see that Kate Mara's cover is she's a baker. A baker! We're supposed to believe she's somebody who makes things that bring joy to people's lives. Nope, not even. You lost me within the first 5 minutes of the movie. And God, man, it looked like nobody wanted to be in this movie at all. It's just miserable. But, nicely shot at times. So, I mean, good for Wally, but bad for the world. Next up, we have Ridley Scott's The Martian, which, it's like Ridley took every bad lesson from Prometheus and learned from it and then made a better space movie. This is just a really good movie. It's Castaway on Mars with a very erudite, entertaining Matt Damon. No Wilson, but he does have a talking head journal, so we become Wilson, and the screenwriters get to cheat about, telling their story, which, again, cannot say enough good things about Castaway. Robert Zemeckis, Tom Hanks, that's an incredible, incredible movie. I still, now having finally seen it, the fact that it won the Golden Globe for Best Musical or Comedy makes even less sense because this is just not a comedy. It's very funny in parts and there's a lot of charm to it, but it is not a comedy, it is not a musical. This is a fairly serious movie about dealing with an impossible situation and the indomitability of the human spirit to come together and fix it. So, Kate Mara, mercifully for me, is barely in the movie. And actually, that's not even a knock on her. Basically, other than Chiwetel Ejiofor, Matt Damon, and Jeff Daniels, everybody is barely in the movie. It's just it has this amazing cast, but there are only 3 main characters because everybody's just kind of popping in and out for 10 minutes at the most of the screen time for this 2-hour movie. But that means everybody gets to be instantly likable and never overstay their welcome, including Kate Mara, who is the communications officer on the Hermes, the ship that leaves Matt Damon behind. Also on the crew, Jessica Chastain, who I initially, I didn't like Jessica Chastain by association. I basically blamed everybody involved in the Tree of Life for the Tree of Life, but, having seen her in other movies, she's actually delightful. The always great Michael Pena, Sebastian Stan is also on the crew, and some other guy who I don't know that I've ever seen before. But then you get everybody else in the movie who has a good 5 minutes. It's, Kristen Wiig is in this, Mackenzie Davis, Donald Glover just steals the show for 5 straight minutes. Sean Bean, spoiler alert, doesn't die. It's weird. I mean, if he had been on the ship, he'd be dead, but he's not on the ship, so he doesn't die. And Benedict Wong, who will eventually be the subject of his own triple feature because things go wrong when he is involved in space stuff. But the star of the show is just Matt Damon doing science and the shit out of things and just being awesome. And Kate Mara is just there for about 5 minutes. She can't even get under my skin in that amount of time. So, yeah, Martian, highly recommend. Unlike 2015's third iteration of the Fantastic Four, wow, this movie is so boringly bad that it actually, I literally, right before starting to film this, watched the 2005 Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans, and that movie looks amazing now. It just, every single choice that Josh Trank and company made for this 2015 version is just terrible. None of the characters even remotely resembled the Fantastic Four. And, that wouldn't be that big of a deal because they're predominantly going off of the Ultimate Fantastic Four iteration of the characters. They don't even resemble those versions. These are just four very unlikable, uncharismatic people being put on screen and forced to go through the motions of. I mean, it's not even a superhero movie. It was with no small amount of irony that I was getting pissed as the movie was being filmed and produced that Josh Trank kept referring to David Cronenberg as a big inspiration for this movie. And I mean, I've made my feelings clear before, and they're all like right here, every single movie that David Cronenberg's ever made, because David Cronenberg is my absolute favorite director, and I adore the Fantastic Four. Never even once have I ever wanted to see what David Cronenberg would do with the Fantastic Four, because he would make them miserable and awful, and it'd be a fairly fascinating movie, but, Josh Trank, as it turns out, is no David Cronenberg. This movie is so heartless and boring and charmless that I don't understand. I don't understand how it has 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, still rising 3 points above My Beloved Vibes. And it's actually, it's more than just inspired by David Cronenberg. This movie is equal parts The Fly and Scanners, because you have, instead of going into space for cosmic rays, they're just working on a teleportation system, which again is reminiscent of Ultimate Fantastic Four. But when the inventors find out that they're not going to be the first ones to go, they get pissed, get drunk, and go into the teleporter, and then they mutate into horrible creatures. Does this remind you of anything? And then they get, militarized, a la Scanners. Because it's just like when the pharmaceutical company was trying to create super soldiers based on scanning abilities and the drug ephemeral. And Doom, if we're going to call him that, even when he comes back, he has head exploding, like the Scanners did. It's just, I couldn't believe it that they were just really going for it. In a Fantastic Four movie in which nothing is about adventure, nothing is about discovery. I mean, Reed pays a little lip service to trying to change the world, but out of the other side of his mouth, he's acknowledging that he wants to leave his mark on the world and be famous, which never once what Reed is supposed to be about. He really is just supposed to be about pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and exploration. But that's not what this movie's about. It's about, the real world and what would this be like if it actually happened? And, instead of looking at it as superpowers, it's just, super disabilities, except that I can fly and I can turn invisible and I'm stretchy and now I'm the Thing where I have a cloaca and don't wear pants. Wonderful. The first sign of actual trouble with the movie, because I was excited when I heard Josh Trank was going to direct it, because if you haven't, see Chronicle. Chronicle is amazing. It is essentially the American version of Akira, and just wonderful. But when I heard Kate Mara was cast as one of the best comic book heroines, Sue Storm, I just about lost my shit, because she's charmless. But as it turns out, that was what they were going for, because everybody's charmless. Miles Teller, who I'm not that into, doesn't matter. Jamie Bell, who is wonderful in everything, is pretty stone-faced even before he turns into the Thing. Reggie Cathy, who's great, not in this. Tim Blake Nelson, once again being set up to be a bad guy in a movie that's never going to happen because he gets killed. Everybody gets killed in this movie. And so, everybody gets killed in this movie. At no point do the Fantastic Four save any lives. In fact, you even see stuff about, the Thing's confirmed kills when he's, a government operative. And hooray, it's clobbering time is now a phrase that his older brother uses right before he beats him. And it's a solid 3/4 of the movie are going in one direction where it's all just grounded, boring, who gives a shit nonsense. And then all of a sudden Doom comes back, and now we have a bad guy that we have to fight, and okay, we're gonna come together as a team, even though It's not even that they don't like each other. It's just that they have no discernible emotions. Michael B. Jordan has no discernible emotions in this movie other than, I want my car back. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get how it got as far as it did before anybody started having any misgivings about this movie. And they should have. They should have had so many because, even before this movie came out, I would never have called the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies good, but if you read the old Silver Age Stan and Jack comics, they get a lot of the characterization for a lot of the characters right. Doom, of course, not even close, but the other guys, and Sue. But this, why would you try to course correct so much in the other direction to make this thing borderline unwatchable? It was over before I knew it, and just completely dull and lifeless. The costumes look like crap. I love that we can't control our superpowers without costumes. Thus, really driving home the whole disability thing that they need prosthesis or some sort of medical device to make their lives livable. And I just can't. The movie was terrible. It was worse than I thought it was going to be. It was boring. I mean, be bad, but be interesting. It was bad and boring. I don't understand it. But it was par for the course for what you can expect in a movie with Kate Mara. Just if she could, I'm not saying she shouldn't work, it's just if she could just go be in movies that I don't want to see, that would be perfect and we could all live our lives. So, don't watch Transcendence, don't watch Fantastic Four, but The Martian's really something. You should check that out. And I will see you guys next week with the end of Tom's Friends Hate Him Month 2016. And oh boy, I'm saved best for last.